Is it time to legalise cannabis? The German parliament has backed a new law to allow recreational use of the drug. People will be allowed to possess substantial amounts of cannabis, but strict rules will make it difficult to buy the drug. Is this a sensible move? Should the UK follow suit? Then, do you think Prince Harry should have more police protection? The Duke of Sussex has lost his High Court challenge. Breaking news against the government this morning. He claimed that downgrading his taxpayer-funded security was unfair and unlawful, and that he and his family would be unsafe in the UK without it. Do you think he's right? Also, then, should people get time off for a breakup? The number of 18 to 24-year-olds out of work due to mental health issues has more than doubled in the past decade. Critics have accused younger people of making a mental health crisis out of so-called normal difficulties, like relationship breakdowns. But do you think splitting up with a partner is a reason not to go to work? And do police need more powers to stop protests? Home Secretary James Cleverly has hinted at changing protest rules after MPs said pro-Palestine demonstrations have put unsustainable pressure on police. But is clamping down on protests a good idea? You can call us on 02078 862 2222. That's 02078 862 2222. Calls from landlines may cost up to 16 pence a minute, plus any call setup fees, and calls from mobiles may cost considerably more. To send us a message, head to Facebook or X, formerly known as Twitter, and search for Jeremy Vine on 5. Of course, you can use the hashtag #StormHuntley. Right, let's get stuck into our first topic now. Is it time to legalise cannabis? 0207 862 2222 is the number. Tell us what you think. The German parliament has backed a new law to allow recreational use of the drug. Over 18s in Germany will be allowed to possess substantial amounts of cannabis and grow plants for private consumption, but there will be strict rules that will make it difficult to buy. From the 1st of April, possession of up to 25 grams of cannabis, which is equivalent to dozens of strong joints, is to be allowed in many public spaces in the country. In private homes, the legal limit will be 50 grams. The German government made the move to protect users from contaminated cannabis and cut the income of organised gangs. So, is this a sensible move? Should the UK follow suit? I don't know about you, Carole, but it seems to me wherever I go in public spaces, certainly in big towns and cities, I swear I can smell cannabis. It seems to be all around us.
I'm sure you can. And I think the fact that Germany's doing it, there's no reason that we should be doing it. You know, cannabis is highly addictive. It causes psychosis in tens of thousands of young people in this country. You know, there are some people, you know, I know there are people who'd like us to be able to pop into Boots and buy, a joint or some crack or some heroin, but we're not going to do that. We keep on being told, you know, the Portugal drug experiment is always held up as the big success story on decriminalising certain drugs. But it has not been a success story, because what's happened is, although there are fewer drug deaths, there has been a 30% increase in psychosis in young people. Addiction rates are at an all-time high.
Well, hold on. Cannabis isn't addictive, is it?
It's
I mean,
highly
it's socially addictive.
No, it's highly addictive. You know, you talk to... I mean, there's a lot of the experts now want it classed as a Class A drug instead of a Class B drug, because it says not only is it addictive, it causes the same harms as crack and cocaine. And you know, we have to listen to the people who know about this stuff. Can you imagine, you know, if you legalise it or decriminalise it, you have people driving cars high, you have people operating machineries. Well, I don't know why you're sighing, Nelufar, because this is what will happen.
I'm trying to be polite and not interrupt you and hold my peace. But whenever you're ready, I'd love to. So first of all, if we're going to operate with alternative facts and the truth...
What's alternative facts?
There is no
What have I said that's an alternative fact?
I'm going to give you my counter-argument.
OK.
There is no evidence that cannabis is highly addictive, one. And number two, this isn't about... no one is suggesting that we should put crack cocaine and heroin in the same category as cannabis and go into Boots and start dispensing it.
Didn't say that. I said there were some people who like that.
What is being suggested here in the real world, what is going on, what the German government is deciding, is whether something like cannabis should be categorised as something... Listen, if you can get cannabis on the NHS, which you can if you suffer from multiple sclerosis,
stop
epilepsy, or certain...
Stop that, because that's misleading too.
Give me a moment.
No, that's misleading,
Let me
and
say
you know
the point,
it is.
and then you can disagree with me.
Is.
Right.
Okay.
The point is, it's really important.
What Nelufar is not taking into account...
Let's hear the end of Nelufar's
which
argument.
is provided by the NHS...
Didn't say that.
One moment.
You're putting words into my mouth.
One moment, Carole. If you're going to provide... If the NHS can give cannabis to some patients, whether they're suffering from cancer, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis... If that is being done, then we should think again about its holistic and necessary kind of use.
You know, the cannabis that you can buy and that you can get on the National Health has the THC content removed or reduced. People should know what that is. That is the chemical that causes hallucinogenic and causes the psychosis.
I mean,
since hippies were smoking cannabis in the 60s, where it had 1% of THC, some of the stuff that's for sale now has up to 30%.
Sounds to me like you're all about regulating it, which is exactly what the German government is suggesting.
I would love it. No, I'm sorry, it doesn't get regulated.
People can't follow the argument if you talk over each other too much. So let's
cannabis, we are supposed to be regulating it right now, but we're not. Police don't have the time. They don't have the time to police the streets, never mind fight a war on drugs. There is no war on drugs in this country. Lots of people take cannabis, as is. But I think if you legalise it or decriminalise it, you're opening the door. A lot of experts say that this is a gateway drug. No kid ever went to a drug dealer and his first deal was heroin. They start off with weed.
OK, so what's happening in Germany is not just decriminalising, but also restricting the sale, from what I can tell, so that you can make sure the quality is there, that the contaminants aren't there. That's certainly what they're trying to say. If it's being smoked already, as like the evidence of our own noses suggest it does, then doesn't it make sense to make sure the quality is there, and then we can regulate what people are smoking, not just how much?
Not only does that make sense, you referred to Portugal, which has a really interesting reason why it has stopped prosecuting, let's just say, possession. Let's just effectively, it did, yes, Carole. America, the United States, has also, many of the states there have decriminalised and legalised the use of cannabis for recreational uses, whether it's in Washington, DC, or it's not so much so in New York, but they're getting there. We should take the American example as an effective and useful place to start. America and the Nixon era was when...
You've read the research in America. It says the cops were supposed to regulate it and don't.
They should, but there's a difference between criminalising something, legalising it, and regulating it. I think the Germans are being very sensible for calling upon a regulated system. Can I just add? I just want to say one more thing. The way that this is going to be done is really interesting. So what the Germans are saying is you're going to be able to use this only in what they're calling cannabis social clubs. Up to 500 members per club. You can go in there. You can't buy or sell cannabis, but you can grow it, and you can have up to 25 grams. So I think that there's a really sensible measures being put into place here.
You might see all these as very sensible measures, but go back to Portugal again. Do you not care about the young people where there has been a 30% increase in psychosis, where there are sky-high addiction rates, and where the mental health issues have quadrupled? Do you not care about that? And that's happened since they decriminalised cannabis.
I deeply care about it, but I also know that rather than those people with psychosis being treated in prisons, they should go to hospital. And that's exactly
And that works if you've got a National Health Service that works. But we don't. I don't know about Germany, and I certainly don't know about Portugal.
So many calls coming in on this. I want to hear from David, who's in London. David, should we follow Germany? Should we change the way that we deal with cannabis, decriminalise it, and also regulate where and when it's sold?
Yes, definitely, because I think all great art is inspired. Like art and music has been inspired by stoners for as long as you can remember. And also, I think if we had a coffee shop culture where cultured people can go and have a cup of coffee and get stoned and listen to music, we get away from all this like violence in our pubs.
It's a beautiful image, David, but I just wonder how realistic it is. It feels very romanticised even, that's what the result is going to be, is better art and music. The reality that Carole's talking about with psychosis and people's lives being changed irreparably, that is a reality and that's documented.
Yes, well, that depends on the strain of cannabis, you know. I mean, how strong it is. Yeah, if it was regulated, we would have, control over it. Because I think we're behind the times compared with other countries.
Okay, David,
and now even Germany, that was like terribly draconian about this before, and you got 5 years for smoking a joint. You know, they've realised that this is a better way to go.
You know, in Amsterdam, that has a very liberal pot-smoking culture, that spawned a whole load of societal problems, we know, with muggings and crime and prostitution. Now Amsterdam are taking... Let me finish my point. Amsterdam are now regulating the sale of drugs more than they ever have because of the societal problems.
But how are they regulating it, Carole? They're not criminalising it. And that's the difference. If they are going to regulate it and limit the way people use it, they are learning that as they go along. They're not saying there should be a crime.
Can you imagine a society if we decriminalise drugs? We already have drugs that are legal, like alcohol. So now we decriminalise drugs. Do you have any imagine what will happen to society?
I do. Washington DC.
If we have
Portugal, there are lots of countries.
How many times do I have to tell you it hasn't worked?
It does.
It hasn't worked.
It has worked.
No, it
not
hasn't.
on your metrics, Carole.
Not
but
my metrics. This is a study. This is a study that's been accepted around. Well, if you're aware of it, and all the stats that I've just given you.
Switzerland is currently looking into, the capital of Switzerland is currently looking into legalising recreational use of cocaine. Europe itself is opening up its understanding. The war on drugs has failed categorically.
Every other country thinks
we should answer the question for ourselves and not from a moral high ground.
I'm not from a moral... Stop this. I am not talking from a moral point of view. I'm talking from a health, practical point of view.
I agree with you, and we should treat it as a health question, not as a criminality question.
And I'm talking about lots of police chiefs in this country say it should be made into a Class A drug, not a Class B, because of the harms it causes. Not only does it mess with your brain,
but by doing that, you're increasing the criminal...
and it messes with your lungs.
At the moment, it feels like we are caught between the two. I think we can agree on that. We're caught in a place where clearly use is widespread, it's criminal, and yet it's not being prosecuted very, very often at all.
The worst of both worlds.
So let's make it so much easier for people to get stoned.
Let's regulate
at least
it.
when a law is in place, it stops it stops it getting out of control, even though the law is not stringently followed. It does.
People
it does
still
put
die
brakes
of
on
alcoholism.
things.
People
Yes, they
still
do.
die
so
of...
let them die of drugs.
Hold on. People still die of alcoholism, even though alcohol is legal. People who are experiencing active addiction are going to experience it. But by giving them... We don't stop people accessing the NHS because they're alcoholic.
The number of deaths every year from alcohol way outweighs anything from cannabis.
Yeah, so let's decriminalise drugs and let's make addiction to drugs. Let's make even more people die of that.
So should we criminalise alcohol then, based on your statistics?
No, we shouldn't.
Let's take some more calls. Kevin's in Dunbartonshire. Should we decriminalise cannabis, Kevin?
Right. Ask your panellist, how does she answer the family that have lost loved ones due to a driver that's been taking drugs?
OK, and there is no answer to that because for that family... What
she said about America, they've had to backtrack and all what they're doing because they've had no-go areas because the drugs is not working, so they've had to put the laws back in place to stop people taking drugs.
Kevin, is this something that's happened to you? Are you talking from personal experience?
No, I'm ex-military who's got zero tolerance for drugs. OK, so you don't have personal experience from your family where a drug driver has caused a death or serious injury? I've seen a drink driver see this injury, so drink is bad enough, never mind drugs.
OK, why do you perceive that drugs would be any different from alcohol, which is legal? And which it's not legal to drink drive, clearly, but it's in our society and people indulge in it legally. So
how many times have you seen somebody being stopped by the police, they get tested for drugs, and it's either cocaine or anything above, including cannabis?
I've never seen this.
Exactly.
I mean, drug testing...
TV programmes.
OK, TV programmes, are we talking about dramas now?
No.
OK, so...
sectors, traffic cops, they all have it.
OK, so drug testing takes place. So we have that already.
that is, decriminalising is not going to increase that. We have a structure in place to deal with that particular problem. Kevin?
The NHS is struggling enough without having to put anybody with more drug problems on top of it, all the rest of it. NHS is on its knees. It doesn't need adding more problems.
I mean, the mental health aspect of this, Nelufar, is hard to argue with. Psychosis can be a result, particularly of the strains of cannabis that we're seeing coming through, which are so much stronger than they ever used to be.
That's absolutely right. Look,
this is with
people.
Young people.
Carole, give me
Carole.
just one moment. People who are wanting to take illicit drugs will take illicit drugs, whether they're legal or not. What I'm talking about, what the Bundestag is trying to decide, is whether we can bring this illicit activity into regulated control. All of these questions you're asking, the points Carole's making, worthy, important things that need to be investigated and looked at. What I don't agree with, no, absolutely they have not.
Yes, they have
the
been.
last time we looked into legalising drugs was well over a decade ago in this country. And what I'm suggesting is you can get up to 14 years in prison for possession to sell in the UK. That includes cannabis. So what I'm suggesting is there's a legal side of this, there's the decriminalisation side of it, then there's a moral side of this. But we need to understand and be really precise with who we choose to criminalise for what they do. The mental health side of things is absolutely important, but no one's going to not take drugs because it's illegal.
Your argument that...
I really want to take another caller because we're going to run out of time, Carole. I'm so sorry. Louise is in Londonderry. Londonderry. Louise, tell me about your experience with cannabis. Does decriminalisation make sense to you?
Oh, 100%. In fact, cannabis medicine was legalised in 2018 in the UK. So anyone who says any different does not know their facts. I have been a medical cannabis patient, a private medical cannabis patient. I pay for my prescription from my benefits every month. I've reduced and stopped over 50 tablets a day using medical cannabis, which I see my consultant on Zoom in Harley Street, my nurse. My medication is then sent, or my prescription is sent to a pharmacy, and my medication is posted to my front door by Royal Mail. Okay. So, there are 34,000 plus patients, legal medical cannabis patients in this country. I am a member of a group of 10,200 people, and we exist, but people don't know this.
Yes, we do know this. We absolutely do know
Carole,
this.
we have structures in place, like the one that Louise is talking about, to regulate, to make sure that limited use...
The stuff that Louise is taking is not the kind of stuff that young people are buying. The THC content is different. The stuff that causes the psychological effects is different. So it's much stronger. The stuff you can buy is very high in THC.
I think you should be on the panel to create the rules. I think you know so much and you're so passionate.
Carole, talk.
The stuff that Louise is getting has had some of the THC extracted to make it safe for her to take.
Why is that not possible to put that on the market in a general sense?
You think that's what's going to happen in Germany? It's not going to. Because you know what's going to happen? The dealers aren't going to go anywhere. The drug dealers, they will give people the stuff that causes the problems.
I know we are going to come back to this subject many, many times. Thank you, Louise, and thank you to everybody that's taken part in the debate. After the break, we're going to be asking if Prince